Great. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Town Hall with Conserve Utah Valley. I'm Adam Johnson. I'm the Assistant Executive Director here at Conserve Utah Valley. And today I'll be kind of walking you through things. So I'd like to just first announce, if everyone can keep their mute on, that would be great. And we'll kind of go through this meeting, and towards the end, we'll give you an opportunity to unmute and ask some questions. But as we go through, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. And later those will be directed towards Representative Curtis. So really appreciate you all coming today. As many of you know, and for those of you that this is your first time here, every first Thursday we have our monthly town halls. So we invite you to come next month, and also bring your friends and family with. Conserve Utah Valley is a nonprofit. We're dedicated to doing one thing, and that's conserving land and water forever. And the way that we do that is through people like you. Yes. Our mission is to build a network of active volunteers in Utah Valley who are engaged in learning more and speaking up on issues vital to conversation. So what this means is doing things just like you're doing tonight, attending town halls, staying updated through our social platforms, volunteering and learning about the issues that are happening here close to your home. And then once you're informed and educated about them, reaching out to other people that you know in order to be able to enact change. And Conserve Utah Valley is just the platform that you're able to get that information and direct it in the way for it to happen. We've got 5 or 6 different projects going on at a given time, and you can learn about those through our website or social platforms. And so you can find something that you're passionate about. We also love to hear your feedback too. So if there's a project that you're interested in that maybe we're not addressing right now, please reach out to us, and we'd love to talk to you more about that. But today we've got something really exciting coming up even before our speaker. And that's a new brand that we've been working on for a long time. So with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Carolyn, our Director of Marketing, to talk a little bit to us about that brand.
Thanks so much, Adam. It's been such a pleasure to be part of Conserve Utah Valley for the last few months. And one of the very first things that Craig and Adam asked me to focus on when I got here was rolling out a new brand. So our original Conserve Utah Valley got started in a very grassroots way, in a very quick manner, like maybe 3 days worth of planning and design. And then people were just putting the pedal to the metal to save Bridalveil Falls. And that logo and that branding has done us a lot of good to get off the ground. But as Craig says, we're working on building an organization that is here for 100 years. And so we partnered with a really talented young Provo native named Henry Lee, who is a student at Parsons School of Design in New York right now, to come up with our new brand identity. And you're seeing it on the screen for the first time tonight. This is the new Conserve Utah Valley. As you know, we have these amazing, wonderful, unique features in Utah Valley, our mountains and our lake. And we love that our new brand identity features both of those things, all in the same lockup, and gives us a really solid foundation to move into the future. We can go ahead and move forward, Adam. Not only did Henry give us a new logo, but he also went ahead and built out an entire brand identity for us. So in the next few months, you'll start seeing our new identity show up on things like t-shirts that we have at events, even all the way down to some buttons and pins. This is going to be the new way that Conserve Utah Valley shows up. Now, we didn't just stop at what I call swag, but we also talked about how we want to show up in other ways. Next slide. So part of our new brand identity is to make sure that we're featuring amazing photography that really captures the spirit of this beautiful place that we live and the area that we're so focused on helping to preserve and conserve. And that doesn't have any better place to come to life than our website. We just rolled out, as of late last night, a new version of conserveutahvalley.org. And if you go there today, this is the new experience that you'll have on our site. With the website refresh, many of you have been going to our old site and doing a great job of a Where's Waldo search to find whatever you're looking for. But we really made an effort to make the most important information accessible right from the homepage so that you can take action on the most important things that we have to offer on any given day. And we're so excited that with our new site, we'll have the ability to update it more regularly and keep the content fresh and the opportunities fresh for you. Another thing that we've added to the experience is a brand new page for volunteering. And so this page, oops, sorry, go back one more, Adam. This page has the opportunity for you to get involved in 3 ways. We have our Conserve Utah Valley Street Rep program that's alive and well and still going, and a great organization run by Susan and Adam. But in addition to that, we're looking for help on our social crew, which is a team that will help us get our message out more broadly through social channels. And then we also have a projects team that you're able to volunteer on a project basis as needed. So be sure to check out our new Get Involved page for opportunities to serve with Conserve Utah Valley. Last part of our brand story here, this would not be possible without just hours of work from some really dedicated volunteers who care so much about Utah Valley. So first is Henry Lee, who really just brought our brand to life, and we can't say enough to thank him. We also had a huge effort from Allie Biggs on web content, and Katie Knight, who has just tirelessly helped us execute on this project. And then I call Peyton Whipple Superman, but he has helped us pull everything together into our new platform on our website. We also have another couple of special shout outs here. Josh Bauer has been part of Conserve Utah Valley from the very beginning, and has been I call him kind of like our phone a friend. When we need real help, we call Josh. So thank you so much, Josh, for taking the calls and helping us when we need it. And then Kay Nelson for coming in really clutch in the last few hours to get our content up and ready on the new site. With that, our new brand is live, and so excited to keep bringing that out to folks to continue to participate with Conserve Utah Valley.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I just can't put into words how excited I am about this new brand launch. This has just been a long time coming, since near the start of the organization, and to see it all come out is just amazing. So everyone, feel free to just go check out that website. There's a lot of great content on it, and in addition to our social platforms, which will be which just went through that new branding as well. We'll give you a link to those a little bit later here in the meeting. Real quick before we move on, I'd like to announce Conserve Utah Valley's next event. This is Hike the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, Bridalveil to Slate Canyon. So you can find more information about this on our website, but this will be happening Saturday, September 18th at 6:50 a.m. We'll be meeting at the lower parking lot near Bridalveil Falls. We'll be hiking for about 10 miles. And you can choose to hike all of that with us, or you can do smaller sections. There's parts where you can kind of peel off there. We ask that you bring water and comfortable hiking shoes, and then you can register for this event at conserveutahvalley.org, right on our homepage. We've got a place where you can sign up for that. Without further ado, we'd like to announce today's topic and also our speaker. So Craig, I'll turn the time over to you.
Great, thank you very much. And I have to tell you, this hike is not for the faint of heart. This is for people who love the Valley. No better place to see it than Bonneville Shoreline Trail. Am I right? I mean, this is just such a wonderful hike, especially with tonight's topic. I'm just so delighted to be able to introduce Congressman Curtis. Now, most people need an introduction. Congressman Curtis is one of those people who does not. I'll give him one anyway, because I'll feel better, not that he'll feel better. He has been a beloved past mayor of Provo. Many of us know him as a friend and as a neighbor. Just has been such a tremendous leader, a great supporter of the outdoors and the beautiful open spaces, Rock Canyon, Bonneville Shoreline Trail, which will be the topic for tonight. He's our representative in DC, and trust me, we need someone like him in DC. We miss him here, having him here in the Valley, and we're delighted that he's willing to do the heavy lifting there. Just a huge champion, and was just so kind enough to be willing to come on tonight, talk a little bit about his experience and some of the lessons from the Rock Canyon Preservation Alliance. Just such a success story. And of course, everyone on this call is so excited about the Bonneville Shoreline Trail and the future of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So Congressman Curtis, we are just delighted to have you with us. Let us turn some time over to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts about these topics.
Craig, thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I feel like I'm with the home crowd here.
You are.
Trust me, I don't always feel that way in Congress. So it's really, really, really good to be with you and share a couple thoughts on these topics, and want to make sure we save some time for questions. That's probably what I enjoy the very most. maybe just a few thoughts with you. Oh, I have to just tell you this, Carolyn, is that right, Carolyn or Caroline?
Carolyn, yes.
I rebranded Provo City. It was the hardest thing I did. Congratulations.
Yeah, you talk about heavy lifting. Nobody agrees. Nobody likes it.
I learned that Provo City had 120,000 graphic artists, right? Who knew? So congratulations on doing that.
Yeah.
Listen, early this morning, well, it started last night, where I was contemplating some really weighty issues. And I knew I had to go to Rock Canyon. So early this morning, I woke up and started up Rock Canyon. I actually saw one of your members, I think who's with us tonight, said that he'd be joining us tonight. And I had, first of all, just a fun experience as I started my hike, running into so many people, watching them enjoy this beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And I knew if I was going to get a moment of silence, I didn't have enough time to get to the top. So I took off on a little, up kind of that slate rock up the canyon, found a little place by myself, pulled out my laptop, and had a few minutes of contemplation. I cannot comprehend, I can't imagine, I can't even dream of a better place to absorb and think and contemplate important topics. I love when I have a problem to head out into the beautiful parts of this state in our county. Thank you to all of you who have made this a priority to make sure there's always a place for John Curtis as he ages to struggle off with a laptop. I have a tradition on every election day, I hike up Rock Canyon because it brings such a recharge of my batteries and such a connection with the things that are really important. Imagine my delight to be involved in the preservation of Rock Canyon. And let me just share a couple of things that I think are important that led to what we have today, which is a Rock Canyon that we know that the future is safe and secure. And the first one was a group not too different than you. And that was a set of early stakeholders who formed an organization and were committed to protecting this canyon. I have no doubt they would have laid down their bodies in front of those, any machinery that came up, to whether it was to mine the rocks or build condominiums. They were amazingly dedicated people. And they laid the early foundation. That without that foundation, I don't think we could have done what we did. And I think many of you are playing that same role in other places here in the Valley. And so let me congratulate you, because that was fundamental to what we did in Rock Canyon. Not only did they do the work, but they had a vision. They could see what Rock Canyon could be and why it needed to be preserved. And that vision was so important as we moved forward. Then there was another group. John Valentine comes to mind, people that were willing to step up with personal expertise, legal experience, and then sometimes money and time to protect Rock Canyon. And we wouldn't have been able to do what we did without that layer of help. And finally, there was a layer of elected officials who were committed to make this happen. And it just happened to be my lot to hold that mantle when all of us came to a head and be part of that. I don't think we give enough thanks to the Richard Davis family. They owned the mining rights in up Rock Canyon. And without their willingness to gracefully hand those over to the city for a nominal amount of money, we wouldn't have Rock Canyon. So I'd also like to give a shout out to that good family. But what's interesting is we were fortunate enough during my time as mayor to do a number of things. We brought scheduled service to the airport. We built that fabulous recreation center. We put in bike lanes. I mean, we did a lot of really fun things. But when people ask me what I'm most proud of my time in Provo City, I think it was Rock Canyon. And the reason I say that is 100 years from now, nobody will remember the recreation center. Nobody will remember Google Fiber. Nobody will care what airlines flew into Provo City. But Rock Canyon will still be a place that we can hike up and commune and get away, enjoy the beautiful outdoors. So once again, I hope that gives all of you a little spark of hope for the good work that you do. These foundations that you're laying that will pay off in the years to come are just so important. So there's another story that's associated with Rock Canyon, and that's the Bonneville Shoreline Trail up in Salt Lake City. Now, none of you will remember, my 5th birthday, but I remember my 5th birthday because my father took us hiking up what was called the Z Trail in Salt Lake City. Some of you will know the Z Trail today. It's very different than when I was there. It was named the Z Trail because at the time you could see a big Z scar on the mountain where the road zigzagged up the mountain. And we would hike up to that. And imagine my delight many years later to have an opportunity to work on legislation to protect this trail and actually enhance the trail. What we have on this section of the trail is a number of wilderness study areas that come down and actually cross the trail. Technically, we can't ride a bike in wilderness study. And technically, bike riders should not be allowed to be on that Bonneville Shoreline Trail because of this wilderness study that comes down. Well, that would be a shame if bikers couldn't be up there because of these small little sections. So we're working to swap out these wilderness study areas, trade them over another area. Some of you might have been scouts at Tracy Wigwam. If you were, you'll know how cold that swimming pool water was. We actually want to move that into wilderness study area and swap this land out. Now, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, as all of you well know, is going to take consistent work for many, many years in many places of our state, but it's worth the work. We want our children to be able to traverse that trail, you know, the long, long distance without having to stop and get off it and go in a car. That's a dream. That's the vision, right, that we have, that the people had for Rock Canyon, that all of us have to hold and keep moving forward in all these many, many sections of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail so we can have that. And finally, before we take a few questions, Craig, I just want to express my regret that I can't be on that hike with you. I hope you'll invite me in the future. You may have to help the old guy over that 10 miles. But if you'll keep...
Look, we all might need some help, but this is the first annual, so we plan on making this a thing just to draw attention to it. So you got another shot.
Yeah, if you keep inviting me, I would love to come. Maybe just another thought before we start the questions. Some of these issues can be very sensitive, and we're dealing with private land, with private owners who also have a vision for their land. And I found that the best approach is taking the time to understand what it is that's important to them as well, and where are those cross sections where we can do this without force or without shaming or without making people feel bad. If we can get them, as for instance, as the Richard Davis family was, on our side, we can do great things. If we don't, then forever and ever, it just takes so much longer to accomplish our goals. So that's something I hope that we can all keep in mind. And with that, let's see if there's questions that we can answer.
It makes good sense. Thank you. So let me just ask you, if you've got some questions, put them in the chat. Those are going to go to Adam. Adam is collecting some of those chat questions and to make sure that we collect them. And while you're putting some of those in, let me just hit you with a commercial. We need your help. When Congressman Curtis talks about, he didn't say this, but it takes a whole city, it takes a village to make these kinds of things happen. And the sad thing is that most of these issues don't come up until it's too late, until something's already in the way, and just so much better to be proactive rather than reactive. And so at Conserve Utah Valley, we're committed to being proactive. I appreciate what you said, Congressman, just about even the approach. Rather than be adversarial, we'd like to create community and work with neighbors. So this isn't us versus them. This isn't all of us working towards a much better vision of what's possible. So thank you for emphasizing those points. Those are very important to us as well. So I'll finish my commercial. You can follow us on Instagram and also Facebook, and we need your help. If you go to, in fact, Derek, if you wouldn't mind putting the link one more time, if you wouldn't mind putting the link in where they can volunteer. Again, whether it's to be a street rep, to learn more and speak up, whether it's to be a project rep, whether you've got some good idea, we'd love to hear from you. So, all right, and Derek has put that link in there, and that will take you to our new website. I'm just saying, you can get all the information you need. All right. So here's what we'd like to do. We're going to have Adam, if you wouldn't mind telling us who's teed up first. Let me also just give some guidelines. Here's how we roll on these town halls. We're never okay with attacking anyone. We're never okay talking about other things. We're all neighbors. We live together. And so we just encourage you to keep that constructive, positive approach that's been the hallmark of the kind of volunteering and service that you've been rendering. So Adam, who's up first?
Yeah, maybe Craig, I can just take 15 seconds before we dive into this.
Please.
I'm starting to get some great questions in my chat box. So how we're going to proceed today is I'll be reading some of those out. If you'd not like to answer it yourself, if I call on you, please unmute with your camera on and just read the question that you've sent in, just word for word to me. And that way I can make sure that we're staying on the right track. We'll be able to answer any questions that are related to Conserve Utah Valley's mission, which is to protect land and water forever. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with one question that I've got sent in, and I'll just read that for you, Congressman Curtis. What influence would you have about public access where people are trying to purchase property along the Bonneville Shoreline Trail for private use?
Interestingly, my grandfather owned about 16 acres in North Ogden, and was approached. My father was, after he inherited the land, and now my siblings have inherited the land, by folks who wanted an easement for the Bonneville Shoreline Trail to come through that land, which our family was happy to do. But I think as we work with these landowners, first of all, I think this goes to Craig's point, which is time is of the essence. Once private landowners come in, this becomes far more difficult to do. And so clearly time is of the essence. Once private landowners have come in, it's just critical to sit down with them, as we talked about before, and see where that cross-section of priorities is, how we can make sure that we're not devaluing their property, but at the same time, work to find a way to connect this trail through their property. And I think if we're creative and we work hard and we respect those property owners, we'll find ways to do that. I know in some cases we've had to take little deviations and go up over their property. I know in some cases that's not possible. And so we work with that landowner the best we can to help protect their property and make sure we don't devalue it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. For our next question, we'll go to Brandon Plew. You can unmute and just ask your question.
There we go.
There we go.
Thanks, Congressman, for coming. I was just wondering if I've gone through your bill and very happy with what you're trying to do. I was involved in getting the Alpine section added to that last year. I was wondering if you could compare the merits of your bill versus Senator Lee's bill to just allow bikes in wilderness areas.
Yeah, it's hard. And thanks, Brandon, and thanks for your help in Alpine. Two very, very different concepts. Senator Lee is looking for a broad sweep to just say bicycles should be allowed in wilderness. And this bill tries to take a little bit more nuanced approach and say, look, we're not going to try to tackle that meaty issue. We're simply saying where we have wilderness coming down the mountain into somebody's backyard where everybody agrees it's not really wilderness, let's swap that out for something that we really think is wilderness. If I were to comment on Senator Lee's bill, one of the things that I think is unfortunate is that wilderness encompasses this very, very large definition. And so we have parts of wilderness where you couldn't even get a bicycle into. And we have other parts of wilderness where it might be appropriate to ride a bicycle. And one of the things we were able to do, if you're familiar with the Emory County Lands Bill, is create a whole new designation. And so we kept pure wilderness, no bikes, nobody's contesting that, but we also created a recreation area that has a lot of wilderness characteristics, but is conducive to bicycles. And I think we'll make more progress if we can realize that, like, not everything is black or white, but there are some nuances where we can accommodate different uses in wilderness.
Great, thank you, Congressman Curtis, appreciate that. The next question, we'll turn the time over to Varden Hadfield.
Hi,
Welcome.
my question is about there's a few remaining sections of private land along the Bonneville Shoreline Trail in Provo and especially in Pleasant Grove. What is the status of plans to use funding to purchase easements along those trails?
Verdon, you're hitting me up with a state issue or a local issue, and I don't have a really good answer for you on that. But I'm happy to try to look in that and do some research. But I suspect that is part of our local county government, maybe even our state government efforts. And I don't know if there's somebody on the line that knows more than I do. I apologize. I don't really know the status of that.
If I may, could I take a cut at that? Because that's actually something that we're very aware of in terms of our focus on Bonneville Shoreline Trail. The reason we're doing the hike is not because we think people don't have places to already hike. We're trying to bring more awareness to this issue, because the more awareness we can bring both to those people who own the land and people who are interested in using it, it really comes down to more of the Provo City, Orem, I mean, all of Pleasant Grove, all of the cities along the trail, and working this out really at that local level. So we're currently very involved with Provo City. They've been very cooperative, very helpful. And again, this isn't something you get done in a weekend or a month, I'm learning by experience. And we're very confident that we're going to make good progress on that. And I think we already are.
Thanks, Craig.
Appreciate it, both of you. Also, Varden, as things kind of roll out with projects like this, you'll be able to find periodic updates on our website. So feel free to stay updated there and also on our social lines. Yeah. With that, we'll turn the next question over to Eli Johnson.
Hey, my question is, would you ever be open or willing to look at supporting a bill that would support new wilderness study areas, or even like heading off a bill, such as like that, similar to your Emery County bill?
Eli, that's a pretty broad question. Let me try to be a little bit more specific with it. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of angst about the current wilderness study areas. We've never really decided, are they wilderness or not? And I think in order for us to consider more wilderness study areas, it would be important to go back to our current wilderness study areas and see if they're appropriate designations or not. That, as you might suspect, meets with a great deal of resistance by a number of people who wouldn't want to give an ounce of giving up any wilderness study. So it's a little bit of a head-on-head battle, if that makes sense, between people who don't want another acre of wilderness and people who don't want to give up an acre. And what, in the perfect world, we'd all relax and say, okay, what should be wilderness and what shouldn't? And then, as I made the point before with the Emery County bill that you mentioned, we actually found that there were some nuanced portions of that land that fit a designation that didn't currently exist. And we were, the net sum of that Emery County land bill was hundreds of thousands of acres of more wilderness than we had in wilderness study. But we also took some land that had been wilderness study and moved it into what we call a recreation area that had a lot of characteristics of wilderness, but allowed for bicycle riding and some trail riding with off-road vehicles as well. So yes, I'd be receptive to it. It would meet quite a bit of resistance, quite frankly, with my colleagues in Washington.
Great, thank you for that.
In fact, Adam, before we move on, we've got Brandon. Brandon, are you still on the line?
Sure.
Just unmute.
Yes, I am. Sorry, with the National Park Service.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, Brandon Stockdale is on the line. He also, going back a question, just talking about, funding to buy private land. I think you had a take on that as well. Would love to hear the Forest Service perspective on that.
Yeah, so sorry to jump in, and I'm driving right now, so don't pull me over. But
thank you for not being on video.
Yeah, so Brandon Stockdale, I'm a community planner with the National Park Service in a community assistance program. So I've been working on conservation and recreation trail projects around Utah Valley and the state of Utah for a number of years. And I appreciate all the work that's been going on. One of the really effective tools that we have is the Recreational Trails Program Grant, or RTP grant. And that's administered by Utah State Parks. And that actually provides funding to purchase private property or to build new trail. And that's been a tool that a lot of our communities and nonprofit groups and state and federal partners have been able to use to secure some of those easements and to make those improvements to the BST. I know in the last several years, they've been very successful in using those funds, as well as Utah Outdoor Rec Grant funds, to make purchases and trail improvements in the Cottonwood Heights area of the BST.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you very much, Brandon.
Beautiful. Our next question, I'll go ahead and read. What influence could you, Congressman Curtis, have to help support your constituents in keeping open access to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail?
It's a really good question. I think all of us can bear some of this important responsibility. For me, I like to be an advocate by using it, by posting it on social media when I do. And it's not something I have to force myself to do. I actually very much enjoy it. My wife and I try to get up on it every Sunday and walk on different portions of it. And so I think that an awareness of it, I think helping people understand why this is important to quality of life in the Valley. Why just what's special about a trail? Well, there's many things special about this trail. Our canyons are being overused. The more people we put on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, the fewer people we have up in the canyons. It's an interface with our wilderness that can take a lot more usage than some of our canyon trails. So I think just education and awareness, and I'm open to anybody else's ideas if they think I can also do additional things.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that invitation too, that your inbox is always open. I've communicated with Congressman Curtis in the past, and he's always good to be receptive and respond. So thank you for that. Next, Merritt, would like to turn the next question over to you.
Yeah, I think we already kind of addressed this, but if anybody wants to chip in, I was excited to learn that the state just funded $10 million for a trail from, I think, Lavercan or Hurricane to Zion National Park. I don't know who else read that, but I'm interested, how do we get 10 million for the Bonneville Shoreline Trail? What kind of federal programs, and maybe Brandon can jump back on, are available? I mean, that just sounds like, you know, I'm sure Zion needs it. You know, we've got all the population up on the Wasatch Front. You know, let's do something like that for the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. I assume that was federal funds that were given to the state that then passed on, but not really sure.
It's out of my district, so I'd have to check on the exact source of those funds. But we do have what appears to be this $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill coming our way, and the potential of the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. And Merritt, there's a number of state organizations that one of their sole purposes is to take this federal money and decide how it's distributed. Mountain Land Association of Governments does it here in Utah Valley. And so I would think, for instance, Mountain Land Association of Governments is working on the Heber Creeper Trail up the canyon. They're working on the trail that would connect Provo Frontrunner across the busy street with a bridge. There's a number of projects like that that are handled by these organizations. So generally that funding goes through these organizations, and they do a really good job of prioritizing it. They're also responsible for roads and things like that. But I might also use this opportunity, it's slightly different than your question, but to work with local elected officials. And if I could impose on all of you to tell you a story that's probably a little longer than you want to hear. It's not that long, but Craig, if I can just share a story with you. When I was a new mayor, a young man came to me and he said, I work for Mad Dog Cycle, and I want you to enjoy riding a bike. I'm going to, over the summer, lend you a bike, 3 different bikes for each different month, so you can experience bike riding. Well, I hadn't ridden a bike since I was a young man. And he gave me the bike, and I felt a little obligation to use it. And so I hopped on it and I rode it to work. And I had this amazing experience as I pedaled down through the city. I saw things, I smelled things, I noticed things I would have never noticed in my automobile. And by the end of the summer, I was riding my bike more than I was driving my car. So the point of this story is, as we work with our elected officials, and we can give them a taste of what it is that we are trying to accomplish, they will become our allies in a very, very strong way.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is, in Provo City, we made a commitment that we would never repave a road without improving bicycle lanes on that road. If you drive 3rd South, you won't appreciate what it used to be like unless you remember that there was no shoulder, there was no way that you could ride a bike safely on that. And we were going to repave it, and they said, no, if we're going to repave it, let's put in bicycle lanes, let's widen the sidewalks. And mayors and county officials can, for almost no money, improve dramatically trails along our roadways. So I got a little bit off track from your question, but just a pitch to work with your local elected officials in a really positive way to help them see the vision of what can be done.
Great story.
Thank you. That's a great response. I enjoyed that story. Isabella, I see you sent me in a question. Would like to turn the time over to you next.
I was wondering what wildlife lives along the Bonneville Shoreline Trail.
Well, I bet a lot of us on the line could answer that question with what we've seen. Clearly, you're going to see a lot of deer. You're going to see the bighorn sheep. I saw some the other day. I had some visitors that I was taking up Rock Canyon, and we saw the bighorn sheep. It was really exciting for them. I suspect you'll find some rabbits. Every once in a while, cougar or a wild cat will come down. Very rarely a bear, but there have been bears in the area. And of course, rattlesnakes. My wife and I had a very close encounter with a rattlesnake not too long ago. And there's enough wildlife that we should all stay on our toes and be careful when we're on the trails. Did I miss anything? What else have you all seen on the trails there?
A little bit too much spurge, but we're working on that. Great. Thank you for that answer. Next,
Angela, one more.
Angela, we'll turn the time over to you for the last question. And then all those other questions that didn't get answered today, I'd encourage you to send those into us or to Congressman Curtis, and we'll do our best to address those. Angela, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everyone for being here tonight, and Congressman Curtis. So I guess my question is about working with the Forest Service. As you know, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail butts up against county, city, Forest Service land. And so my question is twofold. What's the best approach from your standpoint, how Conserve Utah Valley and people here in the Valley can work with Forest Service? And then the second part, are there ever conservation easements placed on federal land so that it can't ever be swapped out, that we can keep that as part of the big picture when we're talking about these trails?
I don't know if Brandon's still on the line from Forest Service. If he is, I'd love to have him weigh in. I would tell you, my experience is that the Forest Service and other federal agencies are very, very anxious to work with us on these issues. They share a common mission. One of the things we did in Rock Canyon is we got out and walked the canyon with them, and I would invite them to walk these trails with us and look at problematic areas and brainstorm them and see what solutions. My guess is you'd find them very receptive to that. Is Brandon still on?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, sir. Still here. And I'll just reiterate, I'm with the National Park Service. So
oh, got it. Okay.
Cousins with the Forest Service. But
I missed that cue.
No worries. But yes, I would just echo that response that the federal land management agencies, both by mandate and just by interest, are very anxious to work with local communities and local residents and have those tools. Often it's just a matter of a lack of resources to implement those tools, especially right now. The last couple of years with the COVID pandemic, we've seen a huge spike in outdoor recreation, especially close to home recreation. And it's really just hampered the capacity of some agencies to be able to do all of the engagement or do all the management that they'd like to see. So we've been taking some more proactive approaches in trying to develop these partnerships through agreements and with groups like Conserve Utah Valley or our high school mountain bike teams or other conservation or recreation groups to help further those resources and just share in that management. My program within the National Park Service, it's called the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. We specialize in community assistance for these kinds of conservation and recreation projects. And so most of my job is spent coordinating between local recreation groups and communities, elected officials, and state and federal land management agencies to help these processes move forward. So again, there's a lot of interest from those agencies. There's a lot of tools at their disposal. It's just often a matter of staff time and resources to try to do that, in addition to managing the lands with these huge pressures we're seeing with recreation right now.
Yeah, and then I'll just quickly comment on the second part of your question. I could be wrong. I'm happy to ask on this, but I believe it would take congressional legislation which would encompass would in and of itself potentially be a conservation easement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But may or may not be a conservation easement. In the case of the Emory County Land Bill, we have different designations we can put on it, or create a brand new designation. But my guess is, Angela, it would actually take congressional action, which is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, great. Congressman Curtis, just can't thank you enough for being here today and answering all these questions. I feel like we've just got a lot of our questions answered, and we're really excited about the prospects and future of Bonneville Shoreline Trail. For everyone, just before you hop off, I just sent our link one last time into the chat box. Please click on that right now.
Hit
so you
that
got
link. Hit that link.
Click that, sign up for updates so you can come next time, and then also be updated about projects coming up. So thank you everyone else so much for hopping on today. Really appreciate you.
I'm going to take the last word and give a shout out to my former sustainability advisor, Don Jarvis, who's on the line, and my very dear good friend, Pam Jones. And miss you both. Hope you're both well. And to all the rest of you, thank you. It's been an honor to be with you.
Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate your help and love your support. Thanks, everyone. So long.
Thank you. Wonderful.